CM Punk, obviously, he made his return that we talked about last week. This week on Dynamite, he came out and had a big promo with Moxley and all that stuff. But to start the promo off, he called out Hangman Page, and who obviously didn't show up, called him a coward, said something about, if I remember correctly, about if you want to apologize, do it publicly. Something about that. And I remember watching it and going, hey, this is a little weird, but then they got into the mock stuff, which was absolutely fantastic, and I kind of forgot about it until a day or two later when all these rumors and reports started coming out about what's going on backstage between Page and CM Punk. There's been a lot of stuff and a lot of back and forth, a lot of it rumor, a lot of Meltzer reports, which, you can take however you want. But the main thrust I want to talk about here is the state of the AEW locker room. Because there's been a lot of discussion that it's been divided because of this. With Hangman Page apparently sticking up, obviously being buddies with the Dark Order and Colt Cabana. And obviously you have CM Punk and his history. What do you think the current state of the locker room in AEW is?
Oh, first off, I want to let you know what the exact quote was that CM Punk had said. The apology needs to be as loud publicly as the disrespect.
Right, that's it.
CM Punk said it was disrespectful for Hangman not to come out. In my personal opinion, and I'll get into the locker room in a second, what CM Punk did there was some bitch shit because he knew 110% that he pigeonholed Hangman. Hangman can't come out and interrupt a segment that he has nothing to do with. Is that fair to say?
I'll agree with that. It was disrespectful, and he went into business for himself. And I say this as a huge CM Punk fan. The wrestling business, it is what it is, and it's moving forward. And Punk's been a part of it moving forward. But certainly there are reports that it was a receipt for something Hangman said in a promo earlier. But during their feud a couple of months ago, but Punk was in the ring with him. In this situation, Hangman wasn't there. He couldn't come out. He wasn't a part of the show, even if he was backstage. And I'll give credit to JR here, Jim Ross. He was on the ball real quick here in commentary. As soon as Punk started calling out Hangman, JR's like, I don't even think Hangman's here.
I noticed that, and good on JR, man. That is a consummate professional right there, unless it's after 9 p.m. on Twitter. So the thing is with this is it really feels like it has this weird division. At the same time, though, you think about historically, and this is a tweet that I've been seeing going around a lot, the two memes. CM Punk's unhappy with another wrestling company, color me shocked. And the other meme that I see that's going around a lot right now is those Triple H promos are starting to make a whole lot of sense right now, aren't they?
Yeah, I've been seeing that a lot too.
Pros and cons. I'm also a fan of CM Punk. However, there are certain things that you just don't do that's not good business for anybody. I feel like the thing with Hangman was not good business for anybody. Being publicly frustrated, look, that's part of life. I understand that. Let your frustrations out, especially if you know that you're going to earn $1 off your frustrations. In professional wrestling, that's something that tends to happen a lot. You can turn a shoot into a work real quick, and you're going to draw money on that. So it is 50-50 on how I feel as a whole about this. Now, when you bring in the locker room, that's a little bit different, because then you have the reports coming out about Miro being unhappy, Brian Cage being unhappy, Santana and Ortiz are unhappy backstage, but it's only because Santana and Ortiz have real life heat with each other right now. That tag team is done. As soon as Santana's contract is up, he's leaving. He's gone. he's not resigning. It's just going to be Ortiz by himself. I'd imagine probably just teaming with Eddie Kingston. But that promo back and forth between CM Punk and Jon Moxley before it got all the attention it got almost made the card this week. Not going to lie, because a lot of the stuff Punk said in that promo made me reinvested into this CM Punk Jon Moxley rivalry. We talked about it last week, building storyline, but that definitely broke the fourth wall in more ways than one, more so than he did with the pipe bomb. So I have a feeling it's going to get real interesting real quick, especially if what Meltzer's reporting that we'll talk about later on in Quick Jabs is the truth.
Yeah, it's interesting here. Certainly, that promo after the Hangman stuff, which just felt weird to me to begin with, and then obviously all the reports about it afterwards. But once he got into the Mox stuff, and Moxley came out and the back and forth there, very interesting. I Punk doing kind of an NWO move, and Mox making his entrance, and Punk's like, I'm gonna do Snow Angels in the ring. You could argue that might have been a little disrespectful too, but at the same time, that's kind of Punk, and that's his character as well. So, but and they're back and forth. They're both fantastic. I have some of my issues with Moxley in match, but he's fantastic on the microphone. There's no doubt about that. You opened my eyes to one of his early pre-WWE promos that we'll talk about on the card this week. But that was absolutely fantastic. But as far as the Hangman stuff and what it means for the locker room, there's been all this talk about, obviously the AEW locker room there's been a shift where people are just, at least in the way people think, now that Vince McMahon's gone in WWE, like, people are happier and they have some hope and they're looking forward to things in the WWE locker room, whereas in the AEW locker room, it's almost like things have gotten a little stale and a little stagnant and people aren't so happy anymore. And, now they're starting to be, because of that, I think, we're starting to get news about how they're being treated in the locker room, Tony Khan's attitude and how he can be with people backstage. And then this comes out, which seems to have caused a little bit of a division, because CM Punk's the world champion, and he represents the company, and he's a locker room leader, but, did he push Colt Cabana out? Is that why Cabana is just a Ring of Honor talent now? All these rumors and reports out there. And obviously, Cabana's a well-liked guy who, so you've got talent that have been in the locker room and sharing a locker room with him for a couple of years versus now Punk's there and big boost, a lot of knowledge that he's probably sharing with. You can literally see him. Early on, he was in the ring with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and you can literally see him in the ring giving him some advice. I think this was after the show went off the air. There was a segment they threw on YouTube, but you can literally see CM Punk talking to Jungle Boy and going, "Hey, this is how you work the crowd, and this is this and that," or whatever he might have been saying. But it was like he was imparting knowledge to Jungle Boy, and certainly that's invaluable, especially to some of the young talent in AEW. But is it worth the locker room division?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's absolutely not worth the division. And, speaking of Colt Cabana, he's somebody that I'm sure I've had conversations with you at a bar drunk as fuck talking about how great Colt Cabana is before. Just because he's one of those talents that consistently gets overlooked. However, I absolutely had forgotten that Colt Cabana was even signed to AEW. As a matter of fact, the last time that I've seen Colt Cabana in probably the last 6 months was on an episode of Young Rock as the Brooklyn Brawler. The dude has basically been non-existent since CM Punk's arrival.
Yep.
Could it have something to do with Punk?
Probably.
Yeah, I would hate to say it does, right? Because you would want to hope that as grown men, you can work in an environment together, even if you don't agree with each other. However, we both know in professional wrestling that's not the case. Look at Sean and Brett. Perfect example of this. Damn, man. I think as fans, if you're a true wrestling fan, right? Not tribalistic, not divisionalist, you hope all these reports are just stupid, asinine backstage politics trying to light a fire underneath trying to create division in the locker room because they're bored with their own lives. We just saw the same thing this week with Top Dollar from Hit Squad. He was accused of being a lot of divisionalist backstage in WWE. Unfortunately, it was some other people backstage that had a problem with Top Dollar. So they started spreading all these rumors. Fortunately, Triple H was smart enough to know what was going on, put the fire out. Allegedly, the backstage person that was behind all this is no longer with the company. So winking and nod, I guess we know who that is. But hopefully this is the same thing in this case, and we could just get professional wrestling back without all this weird backstage dividing of the locker room.
Well, and I think a lot of that is on Tony Khan in this situation. He's got to sit down with Hangman and with CM Punk and suss this out. And now that it's out there, and that Punk made it public, basically, turn it into a work. And I think that's where we all think it's going to go anyway, right? And certainly the greatest thing about professional wrestling is even when two people dislike each other, even hate each other, we can go back to Sean and Brett. They're never trying to hurt each other in the ring. They're always taking care of each other in the ring. It's very rare to see someone actually try to legitimately hurt someone else in the ring. And
yeah,
so even if they have disagreements, even if they don't like each other, you know they're still going to put on a heck of a match, which apparently they did at the last pay-per-view. So
yeah, I see this hopefully becoming a positive in the end.
Yeah,
where we can turn this into a work. If we know anything about Tony Khan in the media, he sticks up for his guys. We've seen it time and time again.
Absolutely. Passionately.
Passionately. Sometimes a little bit too passionately. I.e. Samoa Joe coming into the company and literally coming out on stage in the middle of pay-per-view and marking the fuck out. But Tony Khan's a fan. And I go back to this quote from Edge that came out this week and about how excited he is for the Triple H era of WWE. He said the reason why Triple H is still so excited and passionate about this and why you see a change in the product is because Paul is a fan the same way I'm a fan. So that keeps us excited with what we're doing on a weekly basis. And I think that's what's going on with Tony Khan, hopefully. However, AEW got a 3-year honeymoon phase. Think about that. 3 years, right? So basically now that the fucking shine's not there anymore and you're seeing the cracks in the armor, I think the real test for Tony Khan going forward is to see how he handles this backstage. And even though he will passionately defend his guys against the media, how will he passionately defend both guys in the locker room, both guys who can draw, both guys who have been the face of AEW, to get them to come to some sort of working agreement where you're not sliding one side or the other. I think that's going to be the first real test for Tony Khan as an owner of a company.
And you're right there. But I also think Tony he's got a lot of charisma, and I think he can talk to people. He's good at talking to people, it seems like. And almost in a Vince McMahon way where you can convince someone that you're right. We would hear all these stories about Vince where someone would come in thinking one way and they into a meeting with Vince and be adamant about it and then walk out going, oh, I got everything I wanted, when really they got nothing that they wanted from Vince. And I think Tony Khan seems to have a little bit of that too, where he can talk to people and he can convince them and talk them into things. And I think if Tony Khan were to sit down with these guys, and I'm sure he has or will, maybe even get them in a room together to hash it out, and then they can come up with a plan to move forward. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think we're going to see this become a work. And then they can say, hey, this was the plan all along. And it'll be a couple of years before we hear on some shoot interview what really happened. But right now all we have are the dirt sheet reports. But some interesting stuff going on right now with Punk and Hangman and the AEW locker room. Go ahead, Tony.
So let's just go ahead and put our tinfoil hats on for a second here.
Uh-oh.
You got Stokely Hathaway running around to every disgruntled AEW wrestler. We saw this with Ethan Page. I don't know if you saw the beginning part of the Ethan Page promo from a week or two ago, but Ethan Page was legitimately in the ring with security trying to stop him before the cameras even turned on for AEW.
Oh, wow. I know. I did not see that.
Yeah. So they said, fuck it. They let him go off on his tirade. He literally tore everybody a new asshole. The crowd was literally behind him 100% on this. And then just like a flip of the switch, he turned on the crowd, told them they could all kiss his ass because when a new shirt drops on Shop AEW, it's the CM Punks, it's the Darby Allins, it's the Young Bucks are always the top sellers, and not a single goddamn person buys an Ethan Page shirt. Like, it was just a beautiful dichotomy of you have these people on your side, but fuck those people. You don't want them. You're going to tell them how you really feel. Stokely Hathaway, if you've been noticing, is going around getting all these disgruntled AEW talents to sign deals with him. I think they're going to be working on a new faction of people that are disgruntled with Tony Khan.
Well, that's another thing here with this, with AEW's more, let's say, dirt sheet friendly style of booking. They will, they've been accused of booking for the dirt sheets, but they can certainly use those reports to their advantage in a way that WWE rarely does. And, hey, these guys are disgruntled. But you know what? We can use that. We can use that on our show. And in the process, make them happy. Keep them happy. Improve the morale. So there are a lot of ways, potential ways, we could see the AEW locker room as a whole improve or get more and more divided. We will see what happens here.
The preceding announcement has been paid for by Bomb Media Production.